To another podcast with the UST group here. Going to be talking about a lot of different things, just mainly topics for the week. The last week that's been going on in the NBA, a little bit of eating this week with the hot dog contest coming up, and then obviously a little bit of NFL in the podcast as well. So big thing going on right now in the NBA. What we mainly talk about. The NBA Finals, Game 2. We're going to talk about Game 2. Obviously, when we recorded this video or this podcast right now, Game 3 is going on. But we're going to talk about Game 2, and let's just get right into it. What was your kind of general thoughts, and what kind of happened in that game?
Um, the first thing I want to mention is the Celtics showed the ability that they're able to win tough games.
Okay.
And they were down at one point, so they came back, took the lead, and then just continued to build from there. Part of that was, Kyrie playing a little bit too much hero ball.
Yeah, for sure.
Trying to do just a little too much. And credit to Luka, had a triple double. He was going crazy, but part of that I think is also kind of Boston's defensive scheme.
Yeah.
Against the Mavs. They were talking about it a lot. Since the trade deadline, a huge part of the Mavs offense has been corner threes and lobs.
Yep.
Both of which have been non-existent in the series. There were, I think, so far in their series, there's only been like 2 or 3 lobs. Which you usually watch the Mavs play, and there's a lot more than that.
Right, and if you do a little bit of research, watch any film at all, if they blitz their big pick and rolls, all of that goes away. And that's what they've been kind of been doing, taking away everything that they've been used to. Which I'm really confused at how he's the most blitzed. Luka is the most blitzed player in the NBA on pick and rolls. And no other team did that during the playoffs that much. It was just really confusing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. But keep going.
And then, Boston side of things, there's 2 kind of issues going on with Tatum's shooting past game, or this whole series.
Mm-hmm.
He's shooting 20%.
And terribly from 3-point line. Terribly.
Yeah, it's just bad. Granted, he's hit some timely shots,
right,
which the Celtics have needed, and he has been doing other things. He's been playing defense, and he's been moving the ball.
Yep.
He's been getting assists and rebounding, which he is good, but he's supposed to be their number 1 guy,
mm-hmm.
and he's 3rd in scoring.
Right. And he has been playing really well. Plus minus wise, he's been doing a lot more than shooting the ball.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's supposed to be the number 1 guy, and his shots are just not falling. But it's not like Kyrie. Kyrie's not going to get 10 assists a game if he's not scoring. Yeah. Tatum had 5 assists the first game, but he had 12 the second game. And shot 6 for 22 in the second game. So at least he's not just doing nothing. He's playing great defense on Kyrie, but I would agree that's something to be watched during good thing about the Celtics, and obviously you can agree with this, they're just so deep. He puts up 20 and Jaylen Brown puts up 30 or whatever, and they play great defense. They're gonna win a lot of these games. Especially with Kyrie's kind of been shut down. So
definitely.
And another thing to mention is Kristaps' injury. What's kind of your thoughts on that and how that's going to affect Celtics? I know that he said he would die to not play in that game. But
yeah, it's super rare injury. It's some form of ankle injury. It's he's got a torn retinaculum.
Yeah.
Retinaculum.
I'm looking it up right now.
It's connective tissue that connects to the roof of the tarsal tunnel.
Mm-hmm. Basically, that means
which
it hurts.
yeah,
Sounds like it hurts.
and like you could see it after it happened, like he wasn't able to run,
Yeah.
and it looked like he wasn't very weight bearing.
Right.
And so I think, you know, he game 1 he had a huge impact. Game 2 he had a couple plays. He had him, but like one thing I did see in game 2 that I wasn't a huge fan of is he was kind of getting bodied by Kyrie in the post, which I think is a little ridiculous because you're 7'3"
and
7'2", 7'3".
They probably actually weigh the same size. I don't even know how, but
yeah,
it is kind of insane that Kyrie's cooking you in a post, and that's kind of your thing. But you go.
Yeah, and obviously, Porzingis is a key player for the Celtics. He's, he's 7'3". He's good on the defensive end for him. He rebounds and he can shoot from 30 feet.
Yep.
I mean, it's definitely a tough loss for them, but also, like you've mentioned a lot, they have the depth.
Right.
So I think, Tatum definitely needs to step up with the absence of Kristaps, but I'm not, too worried that this series is over,
right?
Just because he's out.
Yeah, and they played a lot of games without him, and I don't know what his status is for tonight. If he's when we record,
he's out,
but he's fully out. Yeah, but they played a lot of games without him. He's only played 57, so they played games without him, and like we mentioned, they got so much depth. It's not like it's a.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an end all be all if he's out. It definitely helps the Mavericks case.
Yeah.
But which is kind of shown in the box score right now during the game. But also talking about Boston's defense, like shutting down, like we talked about, shutting down the pick and roll and stuff like that. But also shutting down, like Jaylen Brown has been playing great defense, and we can go right into what's our current Finals MVP. For me, it's Jaylen Brown. Which is kind of weird because I've always, as I took a joke to you,
Jaylen Brown hater.
Yeah, always been a Jaylen Brown hater as a joke. But he can play. He plays great defense, and he's with Tatum not shooting the ball well, he's kind of taken over. Points wise, I mean, he's like 20 points a game, but if you hold a team to 98 points, you don't really have to go.
Yeah.
You have to score 40 points, but I mean, he's been shooting well, 7 for 12 in the game 1, and then 8 for 15. He's been shooting well. He's been doing a lot more on all over the place, and he's been that guy for them. So I think that's who's kind of your Finals MVP right now.
Yeah, I think realistically, there's two guys you could give it to.
Yeah.
It's Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday.
Yeah, for sure.
Personally, I'd probably give it to Jaylen Brown. Just because I think he really is the Celtics' best player. Although, I mean, Drew Holiday in Game 2
played so well.
Like, he was playing so smart with his cuts and everything. Like, on the offensive end, like, he was always finding, like, the soft spot in the defense.
Yep.
And, he's getting all these wide open layups. And it was, just seeing that, like, championship pedigree
and
is really fun to watch.
And we don't even have to mention, like, his defense is just so good. So, so that adds. I would agree that he's for sure number 2. I think they just give it to Jaylen Brown because Jaylen Brown is the best player on the team.
He's been going crazy.
Yeah, and he's just been going crazy all playoffs for sure.
Yeah.
Now, if Drew Holiday obviously shoots another 11 for 14 game and 50% from 3 and has 30 or 26 again, and still gets all those rebounds as a guard, that we could put him in the conversation as number 1. Kind of like a Andre Iguodala, even though he allowed LeBron to have 40 points a game. But still, Drew Holiday's work on the defensive end, and then definitely puts him in that conversation for sure. So Now moving on to other NBA action around the league, the teams that aren't playing are looking for new coaches, like the Lakers, and Dan Hurley was on their radar. Offered him for I think it was a top 5 contract and money wise.
Yeah, it's like 70 mil.
Yep, 70 mil, and I think it was like 6 years or
5 years,
5 years?
I think.
5 years.
Yeah.
And he actually turned it down going back to UConn. What's your initial thoughts? Was that a good decision or not a good decision for him?
I think for Dan Hurley, that's a good decision.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, he's the man in college basketball right now.
Yeah.
And if he had made that jump up to the NBA, everybody's gonna be like, he's gonna be getting so much crap.
Yeah.
And I mean, I imagine it's got to be somewhat hard dealing with LeBron.
Oh yeah.
Like
sure.
in terms, like he's just so intelligent that he's like naturally gonna have,
an idea of how it's supposed to be ran.
Yeah,
right.
He's naturally just gonna have, and he's gonna have a little bit more power of the team.
Yeah, and the way like college basketball works, like as a head coach, you run the team.
Yeah.
And in NBA, it's a business. Like in college, you're the GM, coach, and everything. You got to in NBA, you got to listen to all these people, and all these people are like grown men. Obviously, in college, are 18 plus, but it's different in NBA when LeBron is 40 years old and they have kids, and so I think it was a great decision by Dan Hurley. I think Lakers is where. Obviously, Darvin Ham is not a good coach. He was just not good.
No.
But that's where coaches go to die. I think Tyronn Lue should have stayed. They should have kept Tyronn Lue. But that's just where they go to die. If they don't win in their first year, they don't win a championship. It's just, and even if they do win or get close to it, like Western Conference Finals, they still get fired. So I don't think I'd agree. Money's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because they expect you to win immediately, and with Dan Hurley, he'd have to figure out how to coach NBA differently than the college, and that's definitely the complete opposite. NBA players have a little bit more, some NBA players, a little bit more arrogance, and just think like LeBron, he has a reason because he's LeBron James, and he has a certain way that he's gonna, talk to coaches and interact with people. So, and it's gonna be a lot different than the college landscape for sure. So, I think that's a great stay at UConn, win like 8 more championships, because all the other blue bloods are kind of down right now. So and he's like the Coach Cale of 2012. Like he's just making great runs in the Final Four and stuff like that. So. Now going into Caitlin Clark excluded from the Team USA, my initial thoughts is, well, it's kind of based on why. The initial report was they didn't want her fans to be mad that she was not playing. Which I think is very, very unfair that you penalize a player of her status because her fans. Like Anthony Davis got to be on the Olympic team, and he didn't have as many fans or whatever excuse that is, but still he didn't play, and no one's gonna freak out about that. I really don't think that would have been a problem. Anyways, but to exclude someone for their status is kind of insane. Even if she's the best shooter in the WNBA, I would say, I would say that she could still put points up in an Olympic game. What's kind of your thoughts?
Yeah, there's really two sides of the story. It's like everybody's freaking out because obviously she's one of the best women's basketball players in the world,
right?
And maybe ever,
right?
Who knows? But I understand why she's not on the team. It's not like they just decided the Olympic roster last week or something.
Yeah, for sure.
They've
been practicing.
They've had this system for 3 years.
Right.
And Caitlin Clark hasn't been around for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
So she hasn't. She's not familiar
Not
with the system.
practicing, right? Not
Yeah,
practicing for
and
3
she
years.
doesn't have the chemistry with the group.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're just gonna plug her in
Yeah.
and ruin everything they've worked on for the past 3 years.
And I just to add to your point, we've seen a lot of Olympic teams not just be kind of thrown together and not being. So I can see that thrown together and not be great like the USA should be, especially in the basketball realm. But I kind of see that point. I think I do remember seeing that that they've been practicing for 3 years, and I still would. I mean, if I was the USA and I was the the USA's Olympic Committee, I'd be like, put her on the team.
Yeah.
But because she's the best player right now. Even if you can look at the stats and say all that junk, but you watch her play, she's the best shooter on the court. Her team sucks, so you can't compare what the product of what she's putting out right now.
Yeah.
But if you put her around good players, I think the worst player on the USA team would not equal her her output that she could have.
Yeah.
So
and like she's a great basketball player. Like I don't think that is that's not what they're saying. They're not saying she doesn't deserve to be on the team.
Right.
And I feel like she is good enough. She would have an impact on the team, and I also, I believe she's a smart enough player that she'd be able to figure out the system pretty quickly.
Yeah. And she meshes
again,
well.
She just hasn't been around.
Yeah, which kind of sucks but I know that she doesn't really. From the interviews that she's had, she doesn't really care. She's shown that, she's had really good interviews, anyways, about all the just crap that's been going on in WNBA, just stupid stuff. She's giving you guys audience, and you guys are just pushing it away because you're acting so weird about it. But she's been great in the interviews. It kind of sucks for her that she didn't even that it's been 3 years, and but she's just kind of caught up in the wrong time. But she'll be on the next one, and she'll be on all of the world championships and stuff. So
yeah, that's another thing, is she's gonna have plenty of opportunity in the future too.
Right, for sure. And she'll be in 4 years in another Olympic Games. She'll be starting and scoring all the points.
Yeah.
So, all right, going into the state of Florida, just announced that they're allowing high school athletes to monetize their NIL. What's your initial thoughts on that? I feel like that's kind of insane, but also more power to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so honestly, I don't know how it's gonna work. Like, unless it's only athletes over the age of 18.
Right,
I don't understand how that's gonna work. Because legally, anyone who's under the age of 18 isn't able to enter a contract, and it would be legally binding since they're a minor. Unless somehow you get the parents involved.
Yeah, I just looked it up, right when you were talking about that. It says student and parents and guardians are responsible.
Okay.
So it's only the parents and the students are responsible. So they don't have an agent, but it just be under the parents, which kind of sucks. But
yeah, and I think this is also going to lead to a lot of child actor similar situations where parents are going to take advantage of these kids,
like Baby Gronk kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
But
they did put a law in when they did this law. They did add some rules. It says they forbid schools from using NIL to entice students to attend their institution, and prohibits students from securing NIL deals after in-season transfer without a good cause exemption. So they can't just move schools all the time because of NIL. So it's not like but still, just because you make these rules doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I mean, people move districts. People move districts all the time and just say, "Oh, my parents had to move for a job." But if you're making enough NIL to pay for your family, they'd be willing to do that. I think NIL should probably stay out of high school.
Yeah.
Like if you're a good enough high school player, you can wait until you get to college. But more power to you. If you're making money for what you do, I just think it might ruin. Like it hasn't ruined college football. It's probably made it a little bit better. I know the transfer portal is kind of crazy, but high school, there's so many more high schools, and it's just going to be a lot harder to regulate.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of worried about. But
yeah. And one thing I think could be an issue is it's another distraction for these kids. I mean, so most likely it's going to be the top athletes in Florida that are going to be getting these deals anyways.
Yeah, so it's going to be a higher threshold of people.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they're already, so involved with media and all these other things outside of school and athletics that I think it's just another distraction that's going to that could set them up to failure. I mean, when you look at, I feel like there's been so many, highly scouted prospects at the high school level in the past few, since social media has blown up, that have just
fell off the deep end,
kind of thrown their lives away, Mikey Williams.
That's who I was like, Mickey Williams. I can't remember his name, but
yeah,
for sure. He's a special case because he did shoot a gun at someone and got arrested. But still, I don't think he would have. He didn't grow up in a bad place. He wasn't around that kind of stuff, and he just had so much. He just had so many people watching him and so much pressure. I think that kind of put kind of like a Disney, those Disney kids that go off and do drugs and stuff. I think it is a true factor. I think when you have a lot of followers, it kind of puts pressure on you. And so those NIL deals, if they were done right through the parents, and the parents are good about it, and I don't think it's a terrible idea. I'm just glad that they can make some money if they're really that big. But yeah, I just hope that it's not going to be regulated that well, because there's so many high schools and there's so many people in high school. In college, it's like 7% of high school athletes go play college, and so it's a lot less people, and it's a lot easier to regulate because you have such NCAA and such bigger companies. But with high school, it's just going to be the state, and it's going to be a lot of just changing and swapping. So that's what I'm worried about for that. So going into the hot dog eating contest drama, what the heck what's up with that? Joey Chestnut banned for life from the hot dog. I'm just not going to watch it ever again. We're going to have a bunch of nobodies. I don't want to watch people eat 40 hot dogs. I want to watch people eat 75 hot dogs. That kind of upset me. I'm not going to lie. What's your thoughts on that?
No, I know. I'm pretty sure Major League Eating.
Yes.
Put something out. It's not, a lifetime. It's not an actual lifetime ban.
Oh, okay. Good.
I think if
he's a national treasure,
if Joey Chestnut, if he decides to end his relationship with the vegan or with the plant-based hot dog brand, then he's welcome back at the Nathan's hot dog contest. But also, I think it's the dumbest possible thing Major League Eating could have done.
Right.
Because he's literally the only reason people
he's
pay
walking
attention.
money, and he's the only people that like I said, I'm only watching it to watch Joey Chestnut just eat the shit out of hot dogs. That's it. National treasure.
There's no real fan. I mean, I'm sure there is, but there's not.
Joey Chestnut's the most known hot dog eater.
Yeah.
For that. So, and
it's like the Caitlin Clark situation.
Right. It's like keeping her. If they didn't start 3 years ago, keep her oh no, she just can't. She plays another team. What? And the official statement from Nathan's Hot Dog: "We love Joey and support him in any contest he chooses. It's okay to experience with a new dog. Meat eaters shouldn't have to be exclusive to just one wiener," the California-based company said. And I love that, actually. But I just insane to me. When I was reading all these comments on all this stuff, they're like, "Why would you take away this national treasure? He's literally your brand." But how much he got paid for to go to
It's insane.
it's like 1.2 million or something. I don't know if it's like a yearly deal or that he's just got to go to stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, and then for Joey Chestnut, it was like 300,000 just to appear at Nathan's Hot Dogs. So, if I'm him, I'm taking the 1.2 million. I'd just be like, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
But
it's also just not that big of a deal.
Right.
I mean,
it kind of. I just was like, no way. Why would they do that to him? And, but I'm taking the money if I'm Joey Chestnut. I mean, you're a professional eater. Like, you probably don't have that long to live, anyways. So, Now going into NFL, completely switching gears here. Talking about eating, going to NFL. Aaron Rodgers and Hassan Reddick absent from mandatory meetings. I know that Aaron Rodgers gave just a terrible excuse for why he was not there. And what's your initial thoughts on both of them not being there at mandatory meetings? I forgot that mandatory just meant voluntary now. I forgot they changed it, but go ahead.
Yeah. I know Hassan Reddick is just doesn't want to play for the Jets. Like, I remember seeing the headline, like, his reason, I don't know. He's just upset that he got traded to the Jets and didn't want to play for him. So
he's just sitting out?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, I would be like, yes, I want to play for this great defense in Robert Sala.
Yeah.
I mean,
I really don't get it. Aaron Rodgers is coming back.
Yeah.
You know,
I
would good draft.
I would get it because they have so many pass rushers that he would not get to play every snap. Like, but still, that's super selfish. Like, I would be like,
but he's
I have
also
Aaron Rodgers, and so
he's also really good.
Right.
Like, so he's gonna get plenty of snaps. He's gonna have an impact on the team.
Right.
Aaron Rodgers' situation is just, at this point, I think he's just doing it because he can.
Right.
He knows they're not gonna do anything to him. He also knows he's their only chance to have any success.
Yeah. They don't have a backup, so they can't really do anything about it. They're just gonna fine him. Like, he has millions of dollars, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of funny. He's just like the first year he was there. Obviously, he got hurt, but in the preseason he was different than Green Bay. It was they all there and not a little bit less like off the rocker a little bit. And then the second year, there it is. It's like the Aaron Rodgers treatment, but he'll be just fine. Like, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's 40 years old. He probably doesn't even have to practice anyways. Like Tom Brady didn't have to practice to go and win a Super Bowl, which has been proven he didn't actually have to practice. But yeah, the thing about Hassan Reddick, I think, is a little bit he's being a little bit selfish, especially with the team around him. Like, come on, man, see what's going on, go out and play. And I think he'll figure it out before their first game, and he'll play first game.
Oh yeah.
They'll sign it. They're probably trying to figure out a contract or something behind the scenes or something to figure out. And then one more thing to talk about. Brandon Ayuk has been on the trade block for quite a while, I think, from himself. And I don't. Yeah. They're probably not. From what I think, they're probably not going to trade him. But they just don't have money to re-sign him. They're probably not going to trade him until, if they're playing bad this year, they'll probably trade him. But
yeah.
And who's your best destination for him? I know that the trade packages are hard in NFL because people can make all these trade packages for first round picks, and then he goes for like a fifth round pick. So it's like, what? I don't even know what the value of a pick is anymore. But what's your best destination for him right now?
Yeah, I've seen some interesting ones. Like, there's one that has him going to the Chargers for Joey Bosa in a second round, in a 2025 second.
Yeah.
Which I don't know.
I
I think that one's stupid.
right. I think a place like somewhere that he's needed, like the Jets, to
Ah, that's
add a
another one.
guy. Um, the Seahawks, someone like that. Uh, somewhere maybe the Seahawks, but maybe someone with like a quarterback, a set
Yeah,
solid quarterback. Um, like I'm trying to think.
Green Bay
Green
is
Bay,
is
you're
another
right.
one I'm seeing.
Yeah, Green Bay for sure. Dallas, I think Dallas would be a
Yeah,
great spot for him. Um, I wouldn't say that Dak is a set quarterback. I'm kidding. I'm hating.
and
I'm hating.
I don't know if Dallas won't be able to pay him either.
Right. The thing about Dallas, they're just so caught up in money, they
Yeah,
just can't do anything. Um,
yeah,
and I don't even think they have very much picks because they haven't traded anybody either. But that I think
yeah,
just based on fit wise, I think that'd be a great fit.
yeah.
Um, another place, that's possible is like the Panthers. I know that
Hmm.
he probably hate that, but I think that is a very possible place to try to add another wide receiver for Bryce Young, a
Yeah,
big time wide receiver, because in the second year you have to add a big time wide receiver for your quarterback, or it's just kind of wasting their year. That's just
yeah.
been the blueprint for a lot of teams. So um, yeah, that'll do it all for us today. Hope you guys have a great night or day whenever you listen to this, and follow us on Instagram, X, and YouTube, all the social media platforms. Have a good night.